Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here is the host of The Pleasure Zone, sex, relationship, and intimacy coach and holistic health practitioner, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, my sweet pleasure seekers. Today we are talking about women's pleasure. Isn't that fantastic? The last episode was, some basics about men's pleasure, the basic anatomy of body parts. A couple weeks ago, I had Googled what are the top questions related to sex. And I think because so many of my Google searches have to do with research and like finding research information and, that sort of thing, more clinical studies and stuff, I found that the Google search did bring me to some stuff. I'm curious if you guys Google what are the top questions asked about sex. I wonder if you'll get the same stuff that I get, or if it's just happens to be that it's my algorithm. Well, what my algorithm brought was talking about some basics like basic anatomy, some basic questions like, do women even like sex? And some other, there's some basic questions like, why does my partner not seem interested? That can go both ways. Whether you're the, whoever is, whoever's in the relationship, it could be you not being interested or your partner not being interested, or why is your partner not as interested? All of that disinterestedness. Also questions like, am I doing something wrong? And we're also going to look at how we can change things. Is like, how do we have more desire and safety, and how we can create arousal in a way that's safe and pleasurable, and consent is involved. So yeah, I think at some point I'm gonna Google like the top things that people ask regarding kink too, because I'm pretty sure there's a whole slew. I usually just go for topics that kind of pop up. They might pop up during different conversations that I have with clients, or just something that just pops up in my head. And I just kind of roll with it. So what we're rolling with today, when I can get my eye to feel better for a second, for those of you watching, I'm having a moment. So we're going to be looking at, which is hilarious because my eye is like, no, you're not. You're going to shut that eyeball and we're going to work one-eyed right now. We're going to be busting some of the myths around women and sex, because there are, I think, a lot of myths actually. The myth that women don't like sex, is often a misunderstanding. Oh, and there's a lot of shows that I've put out there to explain all that. Over 11 years of episodes, guys. So you will be able to go back and find out, like, why is maybe there a disconnect? Like, why does it seem like my partner's disinterested? A lot of times you're going to find that it's lack of communication, lack of consent, lack of curiosity, lack of change. That's another good C word. Lack of consistency, which I know that sounds ironic, that change and consistency, but sometimes you want to change things up in the bedroom, but you want the consistency of your partner being there. So some great additional C words for the day. So yeah, so what we're going to play with is how you can look at the basic and anatomical structures of what are the designated pleasure areas most common, right? What I truly believe and know is that every single inch of your body, internal and external, yeah, internal too, you could probably have orgasms in your liver if you knew how to. I personally haven't experienced that, but I'm not saying it's not possible. So every single speck of us, every single molecule that we are could have orgasmic energy, that we can either invite it in, that we can wake it up because, hey, we were created by an orgasm. So the chances are orgasmic energy is placed into us via that whole, you know, somebody had an orgasm, it was whoever had the sperm had the orgasm, and that is how you got created. So that orgasm got to be flipped into you, and congratulations, you now have orgasmic energy in you. Now, how do we wake that up in every cell of your being? I've talked about that on a lot of shows, playing with different things, touch, energetics, senses, and all that jazz. We will probably get a chance to talk a little bit about that more today too, but I want to give you guys some basics on anatomy. One of the things that I first want to point out is there is, if you actually Google how many nerve endings are in a clitoris, you're going to get a mixed bag. And one of the reasons, I actually just did this before we got on the show just to see if Google has caught up to some of the research that's been done that's in more current books. And it seems that my Google searches have not caught up to that. They haven't caught up to the fact that there are over 10,000 nerve endings in a clitoris, where they're still stating the old facts that it was, and they weren't facts actually. They were derived from bovine, which is cow clitorises, and they estimated them at over 8,000, at around 8,000, but it's truly over 10,000 nerve endings. Think about that. That is a bundle of sensation going on in a clitoris. And like, what is a clitoris? So we will dive into that. Wait a second, guys. What I just realized is you don't even know who I am. Maybe you do. Maybe you've listened to this show before because it's been on for 11 years. My name is Milica Jelenic, and I am a sex and intimacy coach as well as a holistic health practitioner. I love assisting people on getting them out of trauma and into pleasure. And the pleasure zone is where we have most of that coming to you for free, although you'll find lots of free information about that on the different platforms like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the other places. So you get to have this information at your fingertips for free. You can also grab the Inspired Choices Network app and you can carry me with you wherever you go. Have a listen. Have a little look-see listen there. So we are going to be talking about anatomy. We're going to be talking about certain tips and tools on how to be a little bit more enticing, how to be the invitation for somebody to want to have sex with you, to desire it, and then how to not rush the situation. And for those of you who are new to this, you might not have heard some of my expressions, but one of the things I talk about is if you could consider sex being like a really good meal, and say it's like a meal done by a Michelin star chef. The chances are you're not going to go into that Michelin star chef restaurant and just sit down and gorge yourself out and not even experience the atmosphere, the smells, the flavors, because those Michelin star chefs are bringing you something. They're bringing you scent, atmosphere, taste. They're bringing you a full experience, like a full sensory experience. And that is ideally where you want to be with when it comes to sex with your partner, a full sensory experience. It's not about rush. Especially if you're listening to this show, this is like you're maybe kind of new to the situation. If you can step into some of your first experiences with sex and you can make them unforgettable in a really positive way, where it's like you're remembered as the best lover anybody's ever had, how freaking amazing would that be? And you can do that with some really simple things. Knowing body parts is helpful. So we're going to talk a little bit about the clitoris, the nipples, the basics of what people usually look at. And we're also going to talk about the vulva and the vagina. I'll probably throw in the anus while we're at it too. We're just going to throw in everything, all the common body parts and, kissing and all the rest of it that is considered what you would see in vanilla sex. So vanilla is like non-kinky sex. So we'll look at some of those very, very basic things and how you can turn those very great basics into something unforgettable. And why would you want to do that? Well, for one thing, like I said, savor it like you're at a Michelin star restaurant. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Savor it like it's an experience that you have never had before, you may never have again. And if you treated every single experience with your partner like the most savory, savorlicious, flavorful, yummy experience of all time, how likely is it that they're going to want to just keep on coming back for more and more and more and more and more? I bet your bottom dollar that they're going to be the ones asking you for more if you savor the experience. And what does it mean to savor the experience? Is take your time, use all your senses, communicate with your partner, whether that's asking them, what do you like? Can you show me what you like? There's a lot of, may I touch you? May I touch you softly? May I touch you in a different way? May I try A, B, C, or D? You can come up with some ideas. And may I stroke your clitoris? What a lovely question to be asked. May I stroke your clitoris? In your lifetime, for those of you out there who have clitorises, have any of you ever been asked, may I stroke your clitoris? Maybe if you've been in a workshop that has to do with sex and intimacy and pleasure, maybe you've gone to an Health Practitioner and they asked, may I touch your clitoris? May I stroke your clitoris? Maybe. But the chances are really, really slim that you've had somebody say, may I stroke your clitoris? Chances are slim. And the chances are slim that you might have asked somebody to do that or shown them how to do that. So how do we ask for what we'd like? I have a lot of shows on that too. But may I is a really nice way to start a conversation and to start the asking. May I touch you here? May I stroke you here? May I put my fingers on your vulva? May I hold your vulva? It's a really nice feeling. Now, ask consent first, of course. And yes, it may seem cheesy and it may seem like, oh, we're getting out of the vibe. You know what? The more you can get in the vibe of asking, you'll start to realize how freaking sexy it is to be asked and to be respected and to have somebody ask you if they can do certain things to your body than it is for them just to assume and do and not ask. So asking is delightful. And I know I'm going to have people out there saying, well, by the time I ask her, like I'm already finished, like I'm done. I'm not even interested anymore. If that's the case, contact me. You need some help. If you can actually take the time to ask and to pause and to appreciate what your partner is asking for, and then to then say, is this the way? Is this what you were asking for? Get the feedback. So, stroking of a clitoris. Holy cow, I just went on a rant for 14 minutes. Okay, we're going to talk about stroking of a clitoris after. I'm going to give you a quick lowdown on the clitoris before we go to break, though. So, the part that you can see, the little part that, that you can see, well, it's not always little on everybody. Everybody's clitoris is a different size. But the main part that can be seen is called the glans clitoris. So that little tip, and then just around it is called the clitoral hood, or the prepuce. I don't ever know how to say that one right. So we're just going to go with clitoral hood. And it's kind of like a fold of skin that goes over from the labia minora, and it covers and protects the glans. So sometimes you have to just retract the clitoral hood slightly. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's nice to have the clitoral hood on too while stroking. We'll talk about that in a bit, but the glans is the part you see, and then the clitoral hood, and then there's a clitoral body that connects the internal parts, and then it extends from the glans and it connects to the internal parts like the vagina. So there are two structures that extend back toward like the sides of the vaginal opening, and you can pleasure those too. We will get into all of that. So just know the clitoris is far more than you thought it was. It isn't just the little tip that you can see. It extends far back. And you might want to know some basics of stroking. So we will get into that because I think maybe not everybody knows some basic, and there's lots of different techniques, kids. So just some basics. All right. Okay. We will get back to that. You're listening to the Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
This is the Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight we're talking about how to pleasure the clitorises, the vulvas in your life, and have a really great time. So there's a lot of information out in the world, guys, on how to like stroke it up. Years ago, one of my very first episodes was with somebody from Orgasmic Meditation. They have another name too, can't remember, but anyway, they came on and they were talking about, the basics of their work and the stroking techniques, and they talked a lot about going a little bit to the left. Well, the thing is, that's not true for everybody, but I appreciate their techniques and the information they got out to the world, because it certainly helped a lot of people become more willing to stroke a clitoris and find different ways to do that. There has been mixed reviews on their work and what they offered, and there's been, I don't know, there's been some reviews on there that don't look so great. However, I do appreciate that they came up with a basic idea of stroking for 15 minutes. The reason I say that I appreciate that is because so many times I've had partners where it's like maybe 35 seconds to 2 minutes in to stroking a clitoris. They're like, they think it should be done, or they don't think they've done the right job, so they give up. They don't realize that it can take several minutes for a clitoris to reach orgasm, for somebody with a clitoris and a vulva to reach orgasm. So I think they kind of stroke it at their will, in terms of like what they would want if, they stroke it like it would be like how much you would stroke a penis or something. Can't really tell you, but what we do know, we're just gonna like throw in there's some terms, but they're just some basic techniques. We're just gonna start with having some fun playing with the body, because and I've said this many, many times on the show, do not make the orgasm the number one thing. The chances are the more you take that off the table, the more you just focus on the pleasure itself and connection, the chances are you're going to actually give more pleasure and connection. So when you're first kind of experiencing your own, and this could be for people who are experiencing their own pleasure as well. So take this for you, but also if you're just trying to give pleasure for the first time to somebody who has a clitoris and a vulva, then let's start really simple. Okay, I'm going to start with what I started with when I was a kid, which was, yes, I was a kid when I was dry humping things. Some of you didn't. I did. I was like 4 and I had a very favorite pillow that I would dry hump. And I found that for me, when I was little, I had what you would constitute or call orgasms when I was very little, like 4 or 5 years old. And I didn't know what they were. I just knew they felt really freaking good. And I knew that if I had to go pee really bad, it also helped the situation, like the intensity was stronger or something, or sensitivity was stronger. I'm trying to remember some specific details on that. But I do know I had a favorite pillow. It was I had made the pillow. I did like it's too funny. So I made the pillow. I did like rug hooking. My mom taught me how to do rug hooking, and I had this pillow that had a mushroom thing on it. It was very 70s. It was a very 70s craft done by, a kid in the 70s. And my pillow had it was like a carpet, essentially. It was like a little square carpet. And I didn't take my clothes off for this. This was like clothes on, rub the pillow. The corner of the pillow was particularly hard and I really liked it. And anyway, that stimulation would often give me such a sense of relief. I think also I probably had a lot of anxiety as a kid because I worried all the time about everything. I was like a chronic worrywart, and it helped soothe me. And a lot of kids who masturbate, they do it because it soothes them. And you're having 10,000 nerve endings be stimulated. Those 10,000 nerve endings, we know no other purpose for the clitoris other than pleasure. So, what's the opposite of stress? Pleasure. What's the opposite of trauma? Pleasure. What's the opposite? Anyway, you got it. Pleasure. So, stimulating just by dry humping was super lovely for me. I loved it so much. So, it would give me great relief, sometimes break into a sweat, who knows, but that was where I was at. So moving right along, I don't think I actually physically did like my hands on my own body till I was much older because I was like, I don't know, I think I was told it was wrong. That's a story for another day. But I do you know there was an incident and I think I got in trouble for it. So then I didn't do that for a long time, but I still dry humped things, underwear on, that sort of situation. But one of the things you could do too is just self-exploration, or if you've had consent from the person with the vulva, or you're also a person with a vulva and you're giving mutual consent, you can both hold, you can hold, you can just hold each other's genitals, just to hold, just to get familiar with touch. And sometimes just holding and breathing and getting eye contact can be super freaking sexy. If you have never had somebody touch you and your very first experience is somebody being incredibly patient and just holding your body, looking at you, and building the energy of excitement, even just a hand that you can sort of rub or grind against, kind of like the pillow, you know, the dry humping, but you can, be skin to skin for this, can be really delightful. So these are not like super skillful required, you don't need a whole lot of skill to pull these things off, right? dry humping. You can dry hump your partner. It doesn't have to be a pillow, but for self-stimulation, different things work, right? You can rub up and down on a toy if you want to. You can rub up and down. If you don't want to rub up and down on somebody's hand, you could use other body parts, right? If you'd rather rub up and down on their leg or their arm, or their nose. Whatever works for you guys, whatever you've consented to. You can rub up and down to your pleasure. And back and forth, that sort of motion can work really well at first too. Sometimes some people don't like long strokes, so you might want to have shorter strokes, might want it to be more condensed, like in a specific area. So depending on the kind of body that you have, you might have to slightly expose the clitoris so that you can have more contact with it. But you can also check and see if that's too much, because sometimes having the glands of the clitoris fully exposed and then touched is like, it's like so much stimulation that it can be overstimulating. So sometimes stimulating that with the glands not retracted, just on the side, and you can test sides to see what side you like better. You could test the right side, test the left side, maybe you like both sides, maybe you like it more on the top, maybe you like it deeper. And then checking pressure is super important. Do you want it lighter or a little bit heavier? I find that what happens is that there's a lot of times when the energy builds, that there's this tendency for people to just want to go faster, faster, faster. But the thing is, the energy's building because that's the correct speed. So stick with it. That is also a tip. I think I mentioned it in the penis show. It's actually like in sex and intimacy coaching, we watch a lot of interesting videos, and one of them specifically talks about when you find the rhythm, stick with the rhythm. So because that rhythm is what has stimulated the body. You might feel like you want to speed up, but what's actually happening is your heart rate is already speeding up. So stick with that. You might change the pressure slightly. And what you can also do, if you've never masturbated and you're hoping that somebody else is going to be able to stimulate you in a pleasurable way, maybe even leading to orgasm, I highly encourage you to do that for yourself first and find out what you like. Find out the pressure you like, because it can otherwise become very frustrating. So find out what you like, and if you're comfortable, do a little show and tell, because show and tell can be incredibly helpful. If you're not comfortable doing the show and tell, just doing the tell maybe is good too. Definitely giving some guidance. If the person doesn't have a lot of experience, don't expect that they know, because whatever they've probably seen has been from pornography, and pornography is not education. I cannot stress that enough. Pornography is not education. It is solely there to get your brain to be stimulated so that you're basically on a dopamine high. So that is what you're gonna want to figure out what and how your partner like wants to be stimulated, that has the vulva / clitoris / the whole shebang. So you can also, that's kind of like, so we talked about holding. Now you can stroke, right? You could go direct to the clitoral hood. You could go with touch, with toys, with your tongue, with different things. But to keep it really basic, it's about the stroke direction and the stroke pressure. So if you're getting in the right direction at the right speed and the right pressure for that person, that will be really helpful in helping them to reach climax. So it's good to ask for feedback. Is this a good speed for you? Is this good pressure for you? Is this good direction for you? Can you show me what would make this even better for you? Sometimes the making it even better is like, keep all that going. Now stimulate the nipples, sunshine, or keep that going and kiss me while you're doing it. So I think I did a show on kissing like years ago. Kissing is a really good basic to know as well. Maybe I'll be doing a show about that next week. We'll see. So many different ways to kiss. I think I did do a show on kissing. So anyway, so clitorises. The way I see it is there are as many ways to stimulate a clitoris as there are people. So finding people that have clitorises. So finding what works for one person is not going to translate to another person. It's always good to ask, and definitely use some basic knowledge. Check out your stroke direction. Does a person like circular, up and down on one side, or the other side more on the top, different directions that way? One direction maybe more than the other, maybe clockwise over counterclockwise, maybe more pressure on the downstrokes and the upstrokes. So you can like start to get a feel for what works, and then speed, all of that, super helpful and important. Okay, kids, you are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. So for those of you who were just listening in since the beginning, and maybe you heard the last segment, I was mentioning that I did some shows on kissing. It's been a few years. So one, I probably talked about kissing in my episode called Public Display of Affection, which was from March 22nd, 2021. And then I did another one called A Kiss Is Not a Contract from September 26, 2022. And I might have done another one too. I think I talked maybe about the history of kisses somewhere, but that could have been in A Kiss Is Not a Contract. Anyway, I'll probably do another one since it's been a few minutes since I did one last. For those of you who are just joining back in now, my name is Milica Jelenic, and I am been talking about all the fun things you can do to pleasure someone who has a vulva. Oh, vulvas. So we've been talking about clitorises, like an entire segment on clitorises. Why? Because I could probably talk about the clitoris for days and days and days. I find clitorises to be highly fascinating. I could literally go on about them because we're not the only animals with clitorises, which I also find fascinating. So, and some people will be offended. Yes, we're animals. Anyway, just my fun fact for you guys. So we were talking about different ways of stimulating a clitoris. I mentioned like certain things you could start with is over the clothes kind of play, which would be more like dry humping or touching on panties, or then you could take it to the next level where you're just holding each other's genitals, or, having your genitals be held. You can rock back and forth on that, or just have them kind of move back and forth, just to get like a gentle pressure kind of going onto the clitoris, but also having a lot of patience, kindness, calmness around the touch. This is really helpful, especially if somebody's had trauma, and you're just taking some sweet steps on how to get re-engaged with touch. All of this requires permission. So you need to consent, which means you need to be of age of consent, whatever that age is where you live. So unless you're doing this to yourself, and in that case, and you're doing it to yourself in your privacy of your own home, wherever privacy, that's your business if you're not of age of consent. Anyhow, so yeah, holding, cupping, then stroking, talked about pressure and direction, circular, back and forth, sideways, whatever floats your boat, different directions. I don't know, maybe you like to make X's. You can also start really gentle and just see what it feels like to have like a tapping sensation, just like Morse code on your clitoris. If you happen to be with somebody who knows Morse code, they could tap out, "You are so sexy," with their tapping technique. There's something to try. So tapping will start to stimulate that area, and it's not going to be like overwhelming. And you can tap directly on the clitoris to the sides. You can also tap on the labia majora, so on the sides, and touching the labia minora too. Like, so everything and if you're not sure what those are, if you just pull up, Google that, because I can't show images on here. If you just Google what that anatomy looks like, you'll get some cartoon versions of it to help you. So holding those areas, sometimes even stroking, not directly the clitoris, but stroking where the legs of the clitoris would be, can be helpful too. So like the clitoral body and the crura, the legs of the clitoris, they kind of have this, like, if you know what a chicken bone looks like, they kind of come down like a chicken bone, and the tip of it would be the tip of like what would be the chicken bone would be equivalent to the head of the clitoris. So that's the best way I could describe it to you, without actually showing you. And one day I will have a vulva puppet one day. Right now I don't have one. So getting some of that area stimulated, either by holding, by stroking, light stroking. Sometimes sometimes people like a little pressure in that area, just like pressure in, because there's so many nerves running through there. It can help the body get calm if you are patient and you're present, which is a really good, another P word, patience and presence. Those can be incredibly helpful in allowing the person that you're with, the vulva owner, to be able to be calm, to relax, to have more pleasure. More pleasure can lead to orgasm, because having some of the stress hormones running in your body that could come from fear, or there could be past traumas that would have these things come up, things like your body going into fight or flight instead of relaxing and going into pleasure. So when your body goes into fight or flight, you've got like cortisol and epinephrine running through your body. So it's like you'd rather fight or flight, and your body isn't going to connect in a way where you can sense the pleasure, and even to be able to make a decision, a choice, an educated choice consensually about what you would like. So bringing the body into calm and then being able to ask questions about stimulation can be like, would you like it slow or fast, this direction or that direction? And they might not know. And then you get to play around, and then you can ask, did you like this way better or this way? And keep note. That shows that you're present and that you're interested and that you're curious and that you actually desire to gift this person an experience. It doesn't mean an orgasm, but an experience that can be really healing, right? So not every time you stroke a clitoris does it need to lead to an orgasm. It can, but don't put the pressure on the person to have that, especially if it's their first time or even their 20th time, because there can be different circumstances that could lead to them having stuff going on. It could be emotional or whatever that's affecting them. So be present with your partner. It's such the sexiest thing you can do. Okay, I've talked a lot about that. Like I was saying, I could talk about that forever. Remember, there are other body parts. So, like, also play with the nipples if they like to have their nipples stimulated. I personally can have orgasms from nipple stimulation. I know other people who can too. And the craziest part is, and a lot of researchers agree on this, is that all orgasms are in the brain because that's where our pleasure center is. It's all the different parts of our bodies that get stimulated, sends the message to the brain, and then it's all about having the brain send information back and allow your body to have the orgasmic experience. So yes, I can have orgasms through nipple stimulation, and I know other people can too. I'm not I'm not the only person on the planet that can do that. So just making that okay as well, right? So it doesn't always have to come to be the same thing. It's also really rare at first for women to have orgasms through vaginal stimulation. Even though the clitoris runs deep in there, there's only about 2 inches into the vaginal opening that have the most sensation. Although there's been recently like acknowledgement that even the cervix has sensations. You can get cervical orgasms as well. So that is something I have experienced in my life. I have a really long vagina. If it translated out as a penis, it would be like a 10-inch penis. So in order to have the cervix stimulated, there has to be something quite long go inside. So depending on yours, you might not have a super long vaginal canal. I'm like almost 6 feet tall, so my body is a little bit more stretched. Things are a little bit longer here and there. So one of the questions about, do women even like sex? Yes, women like sex. It's that what we've probably been missing the most on is being asked what we like and then having it delivered. We've also found historically that women have been receptacles for men's pleasure. The name even vagina is a sheath. That's what it translates to, is sheath. And so if your body is basically just the sheath for the sword, which would be the penis as the sword, then it has no other purpose than to serve the sword. So, vagina is one thing, but you can reclaim that. You can reclaim some other words like pussy. There's another one that's my favorite that starts with a C, which I won't name on here just because it's probably going to get like bleeped, or cause problems on certain stations. So that can be fun to reclaim different names and not have to name it as much as like anatomically what we name it. It also means sheath. So you wonder why women have not looked so excited about sex for very long, is because there's been very little interest in women actually having pleasure for several hundred years. There were times in the past, though, that there was interest in allowing women to have pleasure. Like there's an entire island in Greece that was dedicated to women having pleasure, Lesbos. Yes, that's where the word lesbian comes from. So everybody from a Lesbos is a lesbian. And there was specific training from historical accounts that women would go there to learn from other women on how to have pleasure. They also had dildos in ancient Greece. So there have been times historically where it's been acknowledged that women should have pleasure. Also, when you look at certain other countries, like when you look at India, some of the Hindu temples very much honor the vulva, or yoni, as would be called there. So there are cultures who honor it, who revere the yoni, who enjoy it, who agree with pleasure. And then there's colonization, and that's where things go downhill. So let's bring back and reclaim pleasure because we're allowed. And even just knowing some basic anatomy and that you can do different things with your anatomy to have pleasure, and always asking the questions is so important too. We're going to head to our last commercial break. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and we're going to head to this commercial break. We'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and you are listening to the Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network. And today we're talking all about women having pleasure. You're allowed. If you have a vulva, you're allowed to have pleasure too. Yes, you are. And in fact, some women have been known to actually enjoy sex. What? Woo, that's crazy. No, we're allowed and we are doing it, peoples. So out of curiosity, something to think about is like, where did those, for those of you who are like surprised that some women actually enjoy sex, where did those beliefs come from? Have you been with partners who didn't seem to enjoy sex? If you have had like a slew of people in your life where they didn't seem to enjoy sex, this is the kind of person that I coach. So I can assist you with learning what you're doing, maybe what you could do differently, how to open conversations, how to be able to be curious, how to be present, and all of that fun stuff. So if that's something that you're interested in and you'd really like to become a better lover, or even just start on your pleasure play adventures in life, and you don't know how to start, listening to my shows is great. It's a great free resource. If you'd like to connect with more one-on-one specific to you, then I'd be happy to assist you. You can always connect with me through my website, milicajelenic.com, and we will get the ball rolling. So some questions you can start with are asking, do you know what you enjoy? Like, have you had any experiences sexually that you did enjoy? And what was it about them that you enjoyed? If you haven't had any sexual experiences, is there any kind of touch you do like and any kind of touch you don't like? And if you're not familiar with touch, if you haven't had a lot of touch, can we play with some things? Is it okay if I hug you? Is it okay if I put my hand on you and just rest it, maybe on your back? Is it okay if I stroke your back? I know some people really love being stroked. And there's like a speed of stroke that I can handle. And then there's other speeds of stroke that I just want to slap the person. So it's good to know what you like and to guide for that so that you can enjoy it and they can enjoy it and they're not under pressure to try and deliver you pleasure that they don't even know what that is for you. So always be willing to give feedback and always be willing to receive feedback. We're always learning. Even if you've been with somebody for days or months or years, you're always learning because they're going to change too. Hopefully they've changed somewhat in the time you've been with them. Hopefully you have too. So ask for feedback. You can ask for feedback in the moment. You can ask for feedback after as well, sometime within a few days so they remember. That would be helpful. Giving feedback is super helpful. And when you do find something that works, celebrate it. Be like, woohoo, look what we did. We pulled that off. Yippee skippy, look what we did. Celebrate that, because you know what's going to happen is not only are you going to enjoy it, your partner's going to enjoy being celebrated, that they could gift you pleasure. You're going to enjoy celebrating that because now you're going to be like, wow, that showed up. It's going to create a connection between you and your partner. Celebration is a great way for connecting. So that's another great word, celebrating, C word. So celebrate your wins for sure. And some people high five, which I love. And I also love to give a big thank you at the end. Like gratitude, I think, is super important. So definitely give some gratitude, give some high fives, give some like woohoo, like, I don't know, cheers, whatever that is, whatever works for you. But remember to enjoy it, right? It's and especially giving good feedback after, like, somebody wants to hear the good feedback, they'll come back for more. So, I loved it when you did this, this, and this. You are the clit master. Oh yeah, something like that. Give the feedback. If you struggle with words, then even writing them is great, right? So some way of communicating them is fantastic. So just letting you know, if you are new at this, you're not supposed to be walking into this as an expert. You got to think of any physical skill you've ever learned. You might have had some proficiency to start with. Like maybe you're a runner and when you were little, you had some proficiency at running and breathing at the same time, which boggles my mind. I don't know how people do it. But you might have some basic knowledge and skill. You might have had some kind of innate talent with sex, but for the most part, it is a learned skill, and it is okay to keep learning. And it is also okay to think of it as a skill that you can develop and you can practice and you can try new things. If you're a guitar player, you're not necessarily going to pick up a guitar and be super expert from the start. Even if you are a prodigy, you might pick it up and know one or two things, but you're not going to know every song under the sun right away, because you probably haven't heard every song under the sun right away. So if you're doing like the Suzuki method or something. So you can absolutely look at this as a learning experience and how much you can learn and grow. You can make it even fun and give each other, I don't know, report cards if you wanted, like fun, playful, sexy report cards. You got an A+ in oral sex, you got an A in anal, and you got an A in something else, and you got a B- in kissing. So let's improve on that, kids. So you can make it fun and playful and make it so the feedback is playful. And then you can also give the feedback of what could be improved, just like a teacher would when it comes to school. You get your feedback. I think it's because like report card time maybe is coming. I don't know why that idea is coming to me, but anyway, have fun with report cards, sexual report cards. So if you have enjoyed the show, which I hope you have, if you've been listening to this point, you must have, or you just fell asleep and it was still running, but thank you for falling asleep while it was still running, because it counts as a good listen for me on whatever platform you're on. If you'd like to connect, if you are going through anything where you're struggling with sex and intimacy, and maybe you're struggling with pleasure in general, you can always connect with me through my website, milicajelenic.com. That's MILICAJELENIC.com. You can always book a time with me, a little meet and greet.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone. with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach Milica Jelenic. We'll return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body. And tuned in to your body.